What's up, everybody? It's just a shake here and a little short string, actually. And we were having a conversation about bootstrapped apps or startups versus VC backed startups. So, I particularly, um, I particularly go the VC route. I tried bootstrapping for years. I've even had a couple apps that were completely bootstrapped that brought me money, and a couple that I sold. Now, the thing about bootstrapping, um, it's awesome when it works. When it doesn't work, it kind of hurts your soul, honestly. So before I get into it, everyone please like and subscribe, share, etc., etc. What is the difference between a bootstrap startup and a VC backed startup? So a bootstrap startup is, you're 10 toes down, you're doing everything yourself, you're not getting any outside financial backing. So, you're doing all the coding, you're doing all the promotion, you're putting your own capital into the startup to help it grow organically. Whereas with a VC backed startup, you're getting money from outside investors, you're giving up equity, and in exchange for that capital. Now, both have their pros and cons. So let's start with the pros of. Let's start with the pros. So the number one obvious pro is that you get to keep all of your equity, right? So we live in an age where, as a solo, you can be a solo developer and run a whole app by yourself. You know, especially if it doesn't require a whole lot of maintenance and moving parts. So, in that case, if you have an app, you're bootstrapping it, and you make it successful, you have owning all of your application. You have 100%. Can't no one take it. Uh, that being said, well, let me go with the pros of. Well, let me continue with the pros. So yeah, you get to keep all of your equity. You get to keep all of your proceeds. You get to keep all of your capital. You can make decisions at the drop of a hat because no one's telling you what to do, and because you're not at the request of your investors and shareholders or what have you, um, you can make decisions quickly. You can implement changes quickly. Which, if you have an app that experiences hyper growth, and let's say you're able to manage it, that's going to be very important. You're going to need that flexibility to do things at a drop of a hat if the market changes. Now, what are the benefits of VC backing? Well, the obvious benefit is you get your capital up front, so you can apply many more resources to your app to bring it to product, bring it to production or what have you in a shorter amount of time. Or let's say you already have an app and it's generating income, but you want to expand, so you go and you find some VCs, and then you get your money then, Series A, Series B, what have you, so you can go through what's called hyper growth. Well, and not every company goes to hyper growth, so let me just say growth. You'll be able to have bigger growth because you have those resources. You can hire more engineers, you can hire marketing staff, you can hire whoever you need to hire, project managers, whatever. Now, with that influx of cash, you can do things that you wouldn't be able to do as a cash strap bootstrapper. And not every bootstrapper is strapped for cash. There's lots of high wealth individuals who they can afford to do the bootstrapping because they don't have a capital problem. Which brings me over to the cons of bootstrapping and the cons of VC funding. So the biggest con for bootstrapping is that is the time trade off. You know, the biggest reason for getting the cash from a VC firm, hire more people. So you are horizontally and vertically scaling your business by adding more resources to get the product out. So this can be in the terms of hiring more engineers, hiring a product manager, hiring a legal team, hiring a marketing team. All those things are going to require money, especially the engineers. Like if you're hiring, senior level, which you should, I wouldn't for a startup. I wouldn't ever suggest that you hire devs or junior devs or mid level devs. So let's just say that per dev you need to pay $75 an hour if you're doing contracting. Well, that's $150,000 a year per engineer. So let's say you get $1 million in funding and you hire 3 engineers. That's almost half of your money gone first year. Not to mention, um, you gotta have your project manager. You gotta, I'm assuming you're gonna be paying for advertisements to, promote the app and stuff like that. $1 million, hell, $5 million isn't a whole lot of money when you're talking, because the vast majority, if not all of that money, is going to be burned with by paying money. They're still looking at it from by myself. I only need $300,000. Okay, but when you're at that point, their team that's going to bring this idea to fruition. Because you got to remember, these investors, they're typically looking for a 10-year exit strategy, 10 years to get 10x return on whatever money they put in. So if an investor gives you a $1 million, they're likely expecting within 10 years to get 10 million. That's the general consensus. 10x return over 10 years. So the con with Bootstrap, you're going to have to spend exponentially more time unless you already have the capital yourself to fund it. You're going to be spending exponential more time. And one of the dangerous things about that is that every application has a life cycle. There's like a late after that prime pass. I'll give you a prime example of an app that came out perfect timing, Airbnb. When Airbnb came out, it was at the height of recession, the housing recession. Okay. When Airbnb was going looking for funding, people were like, nobody's trying to rent out their house. No sane person is going to rent out random bedrooms to random people. So, one of the reasons that they grew so fast is because they put it out at the right time. They put it out at a time where most Americans needed extra income, especially if you were a homeowner. Now think about this. If you are a homeowner, let's say you had a subprime mortgage or whatever, or even not a subprime mortgage, you're just going through it because everybody's strapped for money at this point. What is an easier way you can think of making side income than renting out an extra room? So the circumstances of the economy made it where that the timing was perfect for Airbnb to come out when it did. Now they also got VC funding, I believe. Yeah, they got VC funding, but it if because they had that funding, they were able to execute their app at the right time. I don't know. I mean, and there's always success stories with bootstrappers, but I don't know if they would have that same success if they tried to bootstrap it and release it at that same time. Now, like I said, I don't have a crystal ball. There's plenty of people who have bootstrapped apps that have been wild successes. But I mean, this is just my personal opinion. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. I'm not going to be upset if you disagree with me. But if you're trying to put out an app that's going to be generating or $1 billion a year, I I opine that it would be better reach out to VCs, give up some equity. You might even have to give up majority equity, and that's okay. But I rather have 7% of an app that makes $1 billion a year than 100% of an app that makes 20,000 a year. I'd rather do it. Now, some people don't do that for sentimental reasons. That it's really important that they own their product 100%, and that is okay as well. You just have to understand how the economics play into that. If you do not have the capital yourself to do the marketing campaign that's going to be needed to experience growth, then go look for funding. Even if it's going and getting a loan. There's multiple forms of venture funding. You can give up equity, you can do a loan. You can find angel investors who don't want any equity. Although those are hard to come across, but it's not impossible. But a lot of developers, um, I have noticed, anecdotally, they've spent so much time on the code and they think that that is all they need. If they can just put out a killer app, then they'll make it. However, it's way more marketing than it is coding. Way more. There's people who are getting millions of dollars in funding and they don't even have a working prototype yet. They're just getting funded off of the idea. Marketing is way more important because if you cannot brand your product, nobody's going to use it. I don't care how much money you have. You have to get the word out. And like I said, there are outliers. There are people who end up going viral and don't need anything, but that's just few and far between. So, what are the cons of VC funding? The obvious one is that you're giving up equity, therefore, you're giving up control. If you give up too much equity, you might be in a position where your voice doesn't matter anymore because you got so many shareholders who can outvote you. This is what happened to Steve Jobs. He got kicked out of Apple. So, I would say that one of the cons with doing VC funding is that you got to watch out for snakes. If a VC firm recognizes you have a $1 billion idea, right? Why wouldn't they try to get 60, 70% of your app for a few million? Especially if you're a struggling broke developer. If somebody's like, yeah, I'll give you 10 million for 60% of your app. Most people will probably be like, yeah, and that's okay. But like I said, you just have to be careful about who you choose because you don't want to get in a position where, yeah, you got this money, now they kicked you out of the company. You got a few $1 million. Let's say you kept a couple million or whatever, and then this app goes on to make $1 billion. Well, you're probably going to feel some type of way about that. So you have to have a lot of business acumen when you deal with these people because the vast majority of them are sharks. I'm not gonna lie, they're sharks, and they care about your. They don't care about you. Now, like I said, there's a couple. You're gonna find a couple people here and there. They're genuinely altruistic people, but it just is what it is. You understand that they're not saying they don't have the term venture capitalist for no reason. They are capitalists who look for ventures to make more money. That's their bottom line. So, be wary of that. When you decide to go get venture capital money, you're basically saying, I am giving up part of my creative rights in exchange for this right now money. Which, like I said, isn't a bad thing. Just know what it is going into it. So, you know, to wrap it up, I'm very much a VC guy. Um, I support people who bootstrap. Like I said, I've treat me at home. My startup treat me at home. I started this app in 2015. Okay, I started this app in 2015. It's almost 2019. These last 3 years, I've been doing nothing but bootstrapping. I went out to Amsterdam. I have a sponsor. I'm sponsored by the Startup League. Um, and I've been trying to get funding for a while. I've actually, today I talked to a VC firm, and a couple weeks ago I talked to some more VC firms. But for the longest time, I was dead set on trying to bootstrap this app. And I really got excited because I was starting to make money on the app. You know, enough money where I could pay some bills. So in my mind, I was like, well, let me just continue doing this. I don't need nobody else. But one of the things that happens when you bootstrap, if you're not making enough capital, um, and by enough, whatever that threshold is, it just depends. It just depends, depending on the product or whatever. But you can easily reach a plateau point where basically you're bringing in income but not enough income where if you reinvested it into like ads and stuff like that, it's going to give you a huge return. And that's what happened to me. It actually got to the point I actually shut down my app for a while to continue development or what have you, um, because I was like, why am I plateauing? I experienced all this growth, and now like I just can't reach that next level. And at the time, it just like with everything else I had going on, the income it was bringing wasn't worth me giving putting the energy into it that I wanted to at the time. So I'm back on it now. I'm trying to raise 5 million for Treat Me at Home. That's my goal. That's what I've been asking for all of these VC firms. And the whole VC thing that takes months. We're looking at a minimum 2 to 3 months. Now, um, so you're looking at 2 to 3 months if they even they go on if because you gotta send your proposal and your talk and submission and all that, and then if they accept you to go on to the next steps, by the time you get that check, it's at a minimum 2 to 3 months. At the maximum, you're looking at like 6 months, maybe even a year. So so that was another reason that prevented me from going and seeking out investors was I one, I got tired of being told no. And then I realized the average startup that gets funding asks about 20 investors before they get their first yes. And I'm not at 20 yet. I'm over 10, but I'm not at 20. So, learning that and looking at the statistics and stuff, that kind of that gave me not kind of did give me a lot of hope in that area. So the last few months, I've been rewriting the front end for Treat Me at Home. The last couple months, I should say, and also I got the mobile app that's being worked on, etc., etc. So there's also there's no problem, no harm in doing a hybrid approach, which I think is what the vast majority of people who are successful end up doing. You start out, you bootstrapping yourself, you get your MVP. A lot of investors won't give you money unless you've generated money on your own without investors. So you know, depending on how much money you're trying to raise, you're going to have to do some bootstrapping yourself. And well, you're going to have to do bootstrapping regardless. Let me just get that out of the way. You're always going to have to start off bootstrapping, whether you finish bootstrapping or not. That's the I guess that's the point of contention and discussion. But yeah, guys, I've been on here for 20 minutes, going on 21 minutes. Let me wrap it up. a hybrid approach is probably the best way. Get out your MVP. If you got your business generate some income on your own, but don't ever um, take off of the table the option of hitting up a venture capitalist. That's all I got to say. For real, guys, I appreciate the talk. We just hit the 21-minute mark. So I'm gonna go ahead and get off here. Don't forget, if you haven't liked the video, go ahead and like it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. And if you aren't following me on social media, shame on you. Twitter at MasterShake08, MasterShake08, and it's also the same for my Instagram and my Snapchat. Go ahead and follow me. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below in the comment section. Other than that, guys, I love y'all. I'll see you guys Sunday for the Black Tech Twitter live stream. And other than that, hey guys, I appreciate everyone who was watching on this live stream. I will talk to you guys later.